The evening sun cast long shadows across the cracked driveway, as Andre wiped sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand, careful not to smear grease on his face. At 17, he'd already developed the calloused hands and focused eyes of someone much older. His grandfather's lessons had taken root years ago, back when Andre could barely reach the handlebars of the motorcycles they worked on together. "Understand the heart of the machine," his grandfather would say, guiding Andre's small hands to feel the pulse of an engine. "Once you know how something works, you can make it work better. You can fix what others think is broken beyond repair." Those words had become a sort of prayer for Andre, repeated in his mind whenever he faced a particularly stubborn engine or a part that refused to fit just right. Today he was putting the finishing touches on a 1998 Honda CB750 he'd rescued from a junkyard 3 months ago. The previous owner had given up after an accident bent the frame and damaged the engine. But where others saw trash, Andre saw possibility. His family's modest home in South Los Angeles wasn't in the best neighborhood, but their garage had become Andre's sanctuary. Tools hung in careful order on pegboards his grandfather had installed years ago. Parts were organized in clear plastic bins labeled in Andre's neat handwriting. The concrete floor was swept clean despite the constant battle against oil stains and metal shavings. Andre's mom called from the kitchen window, "Dinner in 20 minutes. And don't forget to wash up properly this time. I'm still finding grease in the soap dish from yesterday." "Yes, ma'am," Andre called back with a smile, knowing his mother's complaints were wrapped in pride. She might not understand his passion for motorcycles, but she respected his dedication and the skills he'd developed. He was just tightening the last bolt on the Honda's exhaust system when he heard it, the distinctive rumble of a high-performance motorcycle engine in distress. The sound made him wince. It was like hearing someone with a beautiful singing voice suddenly hit a painfully wrong note. The motorcycle's engine sputtered, coughed, and then went silent with a concerning metallic clank. Andre set down his wrench and walked to the edge of the driveway, curiosity pulling him forward. A man in a worn black jacket was pushing an expensive-looking motorcycle toward the curb outside Andre's house. Even from a distance, Andre could tell this wasn't just any motorcycle. It was an Arch, a limited production machine worth more than most cars on their street. The kind of bike Andre had only seen in magazines and videos online. As the rider removed his helmet, Andre felt a jolt of recognition. The long dark hair, the beard, the familiar face that had starred in dozens of movies. It was Keanu Reeves. Here, on his street, looking frustrated and stranded as the California sunset painted the sky behind him. Andre hesitated. His grandfather had taught him to help people in need, especially when it came to vehicles. But this wasn't just anyone. This was a Hollywood star, miles away from the glossy world of red carpets and movie premieres. What would bring someone like Keanu Reeves to this neighborhood? The actor looked up and down the quiet street, likely wondering the same thing. He pulled out his phone, frowned at the screen, and put it back in his pocket. Andre took a deep breath and stepped forward. "Excuse me," he called out, his voice steadier than he felt. "Sounds like your timing chain might be slipping." "I could take a look if you want." Keanu turned, surprise evident on his face. He studied Andre for a moment, taking in the teenager's grease-stained t-shirt and the confidence in his stance, before a smile of relief crossed his features. "That would be amazing," he said. His voice that familiar gentle rumble Andre had heard in movies. "I was on my way to meet some friends when everything just died." Andre nodded, understanding perfectly. "Happens to the best bikes sometimes, even the really good ones." He gestured toward his family's garage. "I've got tools if you want to roll it in there." "The light's better." Keanu glanced at the open garage with its organized workspace and the partially restored Honda. Something in his expression shifted, a new respect. Perhaps as he recognized he wasn't just getting help from a random teenager, but from someone who knew what they were doing. "You work on bikes?" Keanu asked, already beginning to push the Arch toward the garage. Andre held the door wider, making space. "Since I was tall enough to reach the handlebars, my grandfather was a mechanic. He taught me everything." As Keanu rolled the motorcycle into the garage's warm light, Andre felt a flutter of nervousness. This wasn't just any motorcycle. It was an Arch KRGT-1, a bike partially designed by Keanu himself through his motorcycle company. Working on it would be like having a famous painter ask you to touch up their canvas. I've never worked on an arch before, Andre admitted, circling the bike slowly, already analyzing the potential problems. But engines follow the same basic principles. Mind if I listen to it try to start? Keanu handed over the key. Be my guest. Andre swung his leg over the seat, feeling the weight and balance of the machine beneath him. It was heavier than his Honda, more substantial. The kind of bike built for long, powerful rides through open country. He turned the key and pressed the starter. The engine turned over with a groan, tried to catch, then made that same metallic sound Andre had heard earlier. He tried again, this time listening with his eyes closed, focusing entirely on the sounds the engine was making. It's not the timing chain, he said after the third attempt. It's something with the fuel injection system. The way it's catching then dying. There's a blockage or a sensor issue. Andre's little sister Tasha appeared at the garage door, her eyes widening when she recognized their visitor. At 12, she was already developing Andre's mechanical curiosity, often watching him work and asking endless questions. Is that? She whispered too loudly to be discreet. Yes, it is, Andre said with a warning glance. And we're trying to fix his motorcycle. Keanu smiled at Tasha and gave a small wave. Hi there. That was all the encouragement she needed. Are you really making another John Wick movie? My friends at school said you're making like 10 more of them. Is that true? And did you really do all your own stunts? Tasha, Andre groaned. He's just trying to get his bike fixed, not do an interview. Keanu laughed. It's okay. No, not 10 more. And I do a lot of my own stunts, but not all of them. The stunt teams deserve a lot of credit. Andre's mother appeared behind Tasha, placing her hands on the girl's shoulders. I'm so sorry about the interruption, she said, clearly recognizing Keanu as well, but maintaining her composure better than her daughter. Tasha, let your brother work. It's really no problem, Keanu assured her. Can I get you something to drink while you wait? Andre's mother offered. We have lemonade, water, or I just made some fresh iced tea. Iced tea would be great. Thank you, Keanu said with genuine gratitude. As his mother disappeared back into the house, Andre was already pulling out his toolbox and laying out what he'd need. This might take a while, he warned. Is that okay? Keanu glanced at his watch, then shrugged. I'm already late. Might as well be really late with a fixed bike than a little late with a broken one. For the next 3 hours, Andre worked methodically on the motorcycle while Keanu watched with interest. The problem was indeed in the fuel injection system, a clogged filter combined with an electrical issue in one of the sensors. It was the kind of problem that would leave most riders stranded, waiting for a tow truck to take the bike to a specialized shop. But Andre approached it step by step, the way his grandfather had taught him. When he wasn't sure about something, he researched it on his tablet, finding diagrams of similar systems. Keanu asked intelligent questions throughout the process, clearly knowledgeable about motorcycles himself but respectful of Andre's expertise. As the evening deepened into night, Andre's mother brought them both plates of the dinner they'd missed, fried chicken, collard greens, and mac and cheese that Keanu praised enthusiastically. Tasha returned periodically with increasingly elaborate excuses to check on their progress, each time with a new question for their guest, who answered with patience and good humor. Finally, as the neighborhood settled into the quiet of late evening, Andre stood back from the motorcycle. I think that should do it, he said, wiping his hands on a clean rag. Want to try starting her up? Keanu approached the bike almost reverently, as if reuniting with an old friend. When he pressed the starter, the engine roared to life instantly, its powerful rumble filling the garage with a smooth, healthy sound. The smile that spread across Keanu's face was genuine and bright. That's amazing, he said over the purr of the engine before shutting it off. You fixed something the shop told me might need a complete fuel system replacement. Andre shrugged but couldn't hide his own smile of satisfaction. Sometimes the expensive fix isn't the right fix. My grandfather always said to listen to what the machine is telling you, not what the manual says it should say. Keanu nodded thoughtfully, his eyes taking in the modest garage with its carefully maintained tools, the half-finished projects, the dreams taking shape in metal and chrome. Your grandfather sounds like a wise man. He was, Andre said quietly. He passed last year. This was his space. I'm just trying to keep it going, you know? Something in Keanu's expression shifted then, a recognition or understanding that went beyond their chance encounter. You've got a real gift, he said. Not just with machines, but with seeing the potential in things others might give up on. As Keanu prepared to leave, he tried to pay Andre, pulling out a thick wallet. Andre shook his head. No charge. Honestly, getting to work on an arch was payment enough. At least let me cover the parts, Keanu insisted. I used stuff I already had, Andre said. Really, it's fine, just ride safe, okay? Keanu studied him for a long moment, then put the wallet away. Sometimes the universe puts people in our path for a reason, he said finally. Thank you, Andre. As the actor rode away into the night, the sound of the perfectly running motorcycle fading into the distance, Andre couldn't help but feel that something significant had just happened. He didn't expect to see Keanu Reeves again. The worlds they lived in were too far apart. But for one evening, they'd connected over a shared love of motorcycles and the satisfaction of fixing something broken. Andre closed the garage door and headed inside, unaware that his life was about to change in ways he couldn't imagine. Andre woke up early the next morning, his mind still replaying the events of the previous night. Had he really fixed Keanu Reeves's motorcycle in his family's garage? It seemed almost like a dream, but the grease stains on his favorite work shirt confirmed it had actually happened. He rolled out of bed and moved to the window. The sun was just beginning to rise, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. His neighborhood was quiet at this hour, just a few early risers heading to work and the occasional dog walker. Andre loved these peaceful moments before the world fully woke up. Downstairs, he found his mother already in the kitchen, preparing breakfast. The smell of bacon and coffee filled the air. "Morning," she said, sliding a plate of eggs toward him. "Your sister hasn't stopped talking about your famous visitor. I had to take her phone away last night to keep her from posting about it online." Andre smiled. "Good call. I don't think Mr. Reeves would want the whole internet knowing his bike broke down in our neighborhood." "Such a nice man," his mother mused, pouring herself a cup of coffee. "Nothing like what you'd expect from a movie star. So humble." Andre nodded, remembering how Keanu had sat on an old plastic chair in their garage, asking thoughtful questions about motorcycles and listening to Andre's explanations with genuine interest. No hint of impatience or superiority, just a fellow motorcycle enthusiast with a broken bike. After breakfast, Andre headed out to the garage. Saturday mornings were usually dedicated to his ongoing projects, and today he planned to finish work on the Honda CB750. As he approached the garage, however, he noticed something unusual. A large delivery truck parked on the street in front of their house. The driver, a middle-aged man in a crisp uniform, was checking something on a clipboard. "Morning," Andre called out. "You looking for someone?" The driver looked up. "You Andre Taylor?" "That's me." "Then I'm looking for you." The man handed Andre the clipboard. "Got a delivery. Need your signature here." Andre frowned, scanning the delivery form. There must be some mistake. "I didn't order anything, no mistake." "Everything's paid for. Sign here, please." Confused but curious, Andre signed the form. The driver nodded and moved to the back of the truck, unlocking the doors. Andre's confusion turned to disbelief as the man began unloading boxes. Large, professional-looking equipment wrapped in protective packaging. By now, Tasha had emerged from the house, still in her pajamas, her eyes wide with curiosity. "What's all this?" she asked, circling one of the larger boxes. "I have no idea," Andre admitted. Their mother appeared at the front door, coffee mug still in hand. "Andre, what's going on?" Before he could answer, the delivery driver handed him an envelope. "Almost forgot. This is for you too." Inside the envelope was a letter handwritten on thick cream-colored paper. "Andre, thank you for your help last night. Your skill and generosity saved me from a very long walk home. More importantly, our conversation reminded me of something essential, that true passion and talent often exist in unexpected places, waiting only for the right opportunity to flourish. I hope the enclosed items will help you continue your grandfather's legacy. The world needs more people who can fix what others believe is broken beyond repair. Sometimes the universe puts people in our path for a reason. Keanu Reeves Pass. There's one more delivery coming. I think you'll like it." Andre read the letter twice, then handed it to his mother, who gasped as she recognized the signature. The delivery driver continued unloading boxes, tools and equipment that Andre had only ever seen in professional shops or drooled over in catalogs. A professional-grade diagnostic computer, specialized tools for custom fabrication, a new air compressor, parts and materials that would have taken Andre years to save up for on his part-time salary at the hardware store. As the final boxes were placed carefully in their driveway, another vehicle appeared, a smaller truck with the Arch Motorcycle logo on its side. The driver parked and approached with a smile. "You must be Andre," he said, extending his hand. "I've got something special for you." The back of the Arch truck opened to reveal a motorcycle. Not just any motorcycle, but a brand new Arch KRGT1, its metallic black paint gleaming in the morning sun. It was similar to the one Andre had fixed the night before, but this one had custom details, including a small silver plate on the gas tank engraved with the words, "For the journeys ahead." Andre stood frozen, unable to process what was happening. His mother put her arm around his shoulders, equally stunned. "There's also this," the Arch representative said, handing Andre another envelope. Inside was a certificate for a full scholarship to the California Institute of Technology's Mechanical Engineering program, along with a letter confirming a paid internship at Arch Motorcycle during summer breaks. By now, neighbors had begun to gather, drawn by the unusual sight of delivery trucks and the growing collection of equipment in the Taylor's driveway. Andre's best friend Miguel pushed through the small crowd, his eyes darting between Andre and the motorcycle. "Dude," Miguel breathed, "what is happening right now?" Andre handed him the letter from Keanu. Miguel read it, his eyes growing wider with each line. "You fixed Keanu Reeves's motorcycle? Last night? And you didn't call me?" "It all happened so fast," Andre explained, still trying to wrap his head around the morning's events. "I didn't even know it was him at first." As the crowd of neighbors grew, Andre's mother took charge, directing the delivery men to place the equipment in the garage, while she explained the situation to the curious onlookers. Tasha bounced from box to box, reading labels and gasping with each discovery. The Arch representative waited patiently for the commotion to die down before approaching Andre again. "Mr. Reeves asked me to make sure you understand how to use everything," he said. "I'm supposed to help you set up the equipment and give you a proper introduction to your new bike. Do you have time today?" Andre laughed, a sound of pure joy and disbelief. "Yeah," he said. "I definitely have time today." For the next several hours, Andre's garage transformed. The Arch representative, whose name was David, helped arrange the new equipment, explaining the function of each piece and demonstrating proper use. He was patient with Andre's questions, clearly impressed by the teenager's existing knowledge and quick understanding. The motorcycle itself was a masterpiece. David explained the custom features, the engineering principles behind the design, and the craftsmanship that went into each component. He showed Andre how to maintain it properly, though Andre's experienced hands already moved over the machine with natural confidence. "You know," David said as they finished setting up the diagnostic computer, "Keanu called me personally about this delivery. Said he'd met a kid with more natural talent than most professionals he knows." Andre felt heat rise to his face. "I just fixed his bike. From what he told me, you diagnosed a problem in minutes that stumped mechanics with 20 years of experience." David closed the laptop and looked around the transformed garage. "Talent like yours shouldn't go to waste." By late afternoon, most of the neighbors had drifted away, though a few lingered, helping to break down boxes and clear packaging materials. Miguel stayed the entire time, alternating between examining the new equipment and sitting on the Arch motorcycle, making engine noises like a little kid. As the sun began to set, casting the same golden light that had welcomed Keanu Reeves to their driveway the night before, Andre's mother called everyone in for dinner. She had spent the day cooking, turning the unexpected events into an impromptu celebration. David declined the invitation to stay, saying he had a long drive back to the Arch headquarters. Before leaving, he handed Andre a business card. "Call me anytime you have questions," he said, "about the bike, the equipment, or the internship. And when you're ready to start at Arch, I'll be your supervisor." After David left, Andre sat on the porch steps watching as darkness fell over the neighborhood. The events of the past 24 hours seemed impossible, the kind of thing that happened in movies. Not in real life, and certainly not to regular people like him. His mother joined him, handing him a plate of food. "You okay?" she asked softly. Andre nodded. "Just processing." Yesterday I was just a kid fixing up old bikes in the garage. Today you're still that same kid, his mother said, just with better tools and bigger opportunities. She smiled, nudging his shoulder with her own. Your grandfather would be so proud. The thought of his grandfather, the man who had taught him to listen to engines, to respect the heart of a machine, brought tears to Andre's eyes. He wished his grandfather could see the garage now, filled with professional equipment and a custom arch motorcycle worth more than their car. But in a way, Andre thought his grandfather had made this possible. Without those early lessons, without the passion his grandfather had nurtured, Andre would never have stepped forward to help a stranded motorcyclist yesterday. Sometimes the universe puts people in our path for a reason. From inside the house, Andre could hear Tasha's excited voice as she described the day's events to someone on the phone. Miguel had taken over the garage, organizing tools with the seriousness of a museum curator arranging precious artifacts. Tomorrow, Andre would begin exploring his new equipment, testing the capabilities of his upgraded workspace. He would start planning for college, for the internship, for a future that suddenly contained possibilities he'd never dared to imagine. But tonight, he simply sat on the porch with his mother, eating good food and watching the stars appear one by one in the darkening sky, feeling grateful for broken motorcycles and chance encounters that changed everything. The news spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. By Monday morning, Andre couldn't walk to the bus stop without someone stopping him to ask about Keanu Reeves, or the shiny new motorcycle now parked in his garage. His phone buzzed constantly with messages from classmates who had heard the story, each version growing more elaborate than the last. Is it true he's putting you in his next movie? Asked Tyler, Andre's lab partner, as they settled into their seats for first period physics. Andre shook his head. No movies. Just the bike and some equipment. Just the bike, Tyler repeated with a low whistle. Dude, that's like $100,000 motorcycle. The number made Andre's stomach tighten. He hadn't looked up the exact value of the Arch KRGT1, partly because he didn't want to know. The reality of what had happened still felt too big, too impossible to fully accept. His physics teacher, Mr. Chen, pulled him aside after class. I heard about your scholarship to Caltech, he said, his eyes bright with pride. That's quite an achievement. Thanks, Andre said, uncomfortable with the attention. It's still sinking in. Mr. Chen nodded understandingly. I always knew you had potential beyond what our school could offer. Your understanding of mechanical physics is intuitive. He paused, then added, If you need help preparing for Caltech, my door is always open. The jump from high school to a place like that can be challenging. Throughout the day, Andre found himself alternating between excitement and anxiety. The scholarship was a dream come true, the kind of opportunity he'd never thought possible. But doubt crept in too. Could he really handle Caltech? Would he measure up against students from fancy private schools with advanced classes and unlimited resources? By the time he got home, Andre was mentally exhausted from fielding questions and managing his own swirling thoughts. He headed straight for the garage, seeking the comfort of familiar work. The space had been transformed. The new equipment gleamed under the overhead lights, professional and intimidating. The Arch motorcycle sat in the center like a black jewel. Andre ran his hand along its smooth surface, still unable to believe it was his. He changed into work clothes and turned his attention to the Honda CB750 he'd been restoring before Keanu's visit. The project felt small now, almost quaint compared to the high-end machinery surrounding it. But as Andre began working, the familiar rhythm of tools and engine parts soothed his mind. This was still his passion, regardless of what bike he was fixing or what tools he used. An hour into his work, Andre heard a car pull up outside. Through the open garage door, he saw a sleek black sedan park at the curb. A woman in a crisp business suit emerged, carrying a leather portfolio. Andre Taylor, she called, approaching the garage. Andre wiped his hands on a rag. That's me. I'm Patricia Winters from the Caltech admissions office. She extended her hand. Do you have a few minutes to talk? Andre's heart raced as he led her inside the house. His mother was still at work and Tasha was at basketball practice. He offered Ms. Winters water, which she accepted gratefully. Normally, we don't make house calls, she explained, opening her portfolio. But this situation is unique. When Keanu Reeves personally calls our president to discuss a scholarship for a student, it gets our attention. Andre blinked. He called the president of Caltech? Ms. Winters smiled. He did. But before you worry, your acceptance isn't just celebrity influence. We looked into your academic record and it's impressive. Your grades, especially in STEM subjects, are excellent. What you've lacked are opportunities, advanced placement classes, science competitions, the extracurriculars that often separate good students from great candidates. She pulled out several papers from her portfolio. The scholarship is real and it's yours if you want it. But there's a catch. You'd need to start in the summer session just 8 weeks from now. 8 weeks? Andre repeated. But I haven't even graduated high school yet. We've worked out an arrangement with your school. If you complete their requirements in the next 6 weeks, they'll issue your diploma early. She slid the papers across the table. It's accelerated but doable. The alternative is waiting until next spring. Andre stared at the papers, his mind racing. 8 weeks to finish high school. Say goodbye to everything familiar and move to Pasadena for college. Why the rush? He asked. The summer session includes an intensive preparation program for students from non-traditional backgrounds. It would give you time to adjust before the full semester begins. Ms. Winters' expression softened. I won't sugarcoat it. Caltech is challenging for everyone. This program could help bridge the gap between your current school and our expectations. After Ms. Winters left, Andre sat at the kitchen table, reading through the paperwork. The opportunity was incredible, but the timeline terrifying. Could he really finish 6 weeks of schoolwork in half that time? Was he ready for Caltech even with a summer program to ease the transition? His mother found him still sitting there when she returned from work. What's all this? She asked, setting down her purse. Andre explained the situation. His mother listened carefully, then sat beside him. What do you want to do? She asked. I don't know, Andre admitted. It's happening so fast. His mother took his hand. When your grandfather taught you to ride a bike, do you remember what he said about balance? Andre nodded. He said you have to keep moving forward. If you stop, you fall. Life's the same way sometimes. She squeezed his hand. Opportunities don't always come when we're ready for them. Sometimes we have to adjust our balance and keep pedaling. That night, Andre couldn't sleep. He slipped out of bed and went to the garage, turning on just one light. The motorcycle gleamed in the dim illumination. Andre sat on it, feeling its weight and balance, imagining riding it to Caltech, to his internship at Arch Motorcycle, to a future he hadn't dared imagine a week ago. What would you do, Grandpa? He whispered into the quiet garage. The answer came not in words but in memory, his grandfather's hands guiding his own as they rebuilt their first engine together. Problems are just puzzles, his grandfather had said. Break them down into pieces you can handle, then solve them one by one. Andre began making mental lists. Schoolwork to complete, things he'd need for college, skills to practice before the internship. Each item seemed manageable on its own. Together, they formed a path forward. The next morning, Andre arrived at school early and requested a meeting with his counselor. By lunchtime, he had a plan to complete his remaining credits. His teachers, excited by his opportunity, agreed to work with him on an accelerated schedule. After school, he rode his bicycle, not yet comfortable taking the Arch through busy traffic, to the hardware store where he worked part-time. His boss, Mr. Reynolds, was sorting inventory when Andre arrived. Hey, kid, Mr. Reynolds called. Heard you're becoming famous around here. Andre shook his head, embarrassed. Not famous. Just lucky. Lucky is when you find a $20 bill on the sidewalk, Mr. Reynolds said. What happened to you is something else entirely. He set down his clipboard. I'm guessing you're here to quit? Actually, no, Andre said. I need more hours. As many as you can give me. At least until I leave for college. Mr. Reynolds raised his eyebrows. Most kids would be joyriding on that fancy new motorcycle, not asking for extra shifts. I need to save up, Andre explained. The scholarship covers tuition, but there's still books, supplies, living expenses. He trailed off, thinking of all the unknown costs ahead. Mr. Reynolds studied him for a moment, then nodded. I can give you 30 hours a week, and I'll bump your pay to 15 an hour. Really? Andre hadn't expected a raise. You're worth it, Mr. Reynolds said simply. Always have been. Over the next 2 weeks, Andre fell into a new routine. School during the day, working on accelerated assignments during lunch and free periods, hardware store shifts in the evenings, late nights in the garage practicing with his new equipment and slowly becoming comfortable with the Arch motorcycle. His mother helped by taking over most of his chores. Tasha helped by quizzing him on subject material. Miguel helped by bringing food when Andre worked late and offering constant encouragement. "You're going to kill it at Caltech," Miguel said one evening as they sat in the garage. Andre working on a physics problem set while Miguel handed him tools for a side project. "You don't know that," Andre said, erasing a calculation. "Those kids have been preparing for this their whole lives." "So have you," Miguel countered. "Just in a different way. They've been doing practice problems in science camps. You've been solving real-world problems with real machines." Andre looked up from his work. "I'm scared," he admitted, saying aloud what he'd barely acknowledged to himself. "What if I fail? What if this whole thing, Keanu, the scholarship, all of it, is wasted on me?" Miguel set down the wrench he was holding. "Remember last year when you rebuilt that old dirt bike that everyone said was junk? The one you sold to Mr. Garcia's son?" Andre nodded. "You know what Mr. Garcia told my dad? He said his son hadn't smiled like that in years. Not since his mom died." Miguel leaned forward. "You didn't just fix a bike, Andre. You gave that kid joy. That's what you do. You fix things and it matters." That night, Andre took the arch out for a real ride for the first time, feeling the power beneath him as he cruised through quiet streets. The motorcycle responded to his slightest touch, an extension of his body rather than a separate machine. As the wind rushed past, Andre felt his fears begin to recede. The future was still uncertain, full of challenges he couldn't yet imagine. But for the first time, he believed he might be ready to face them. The 6 weeks before Andre's departure passed in a blur of activity. Days melted into nights as he raced to complete his high school requirements, working double shifts at the hardware store and spending every spare moment preparing for the changes ahead. His bedroom slowly transformed. The posters of motorcycles came down, carefully rolled and stored. His clothes were sorted into piles: take, donate, leave behind. His mother bought him a new suitcase bigger than any they'd ever owned, and they filled it together on a Sunday afternoon. "Do you think I'll need a suit?" Andre asked, holding up the one nice jacket he owned, purchased for his grandfather's funeral. His mother examined it critically. "It's too small now. You've grown." She folded it anyway, placing it in the leave behind pile. "We'll find you something in Pasadena when you need it." On his last day of high school, Andre's physics teacher, Mr. Chen, presented him with a small wooden box after class. "A graduation gift," Mr. Chen explained as Andre opened it to find a gleaming slide rule inside. "It was mine when I was a student at MIT. Completely obsolete now, of course, but it reminds me of something important." Andre ran his finger along the smooth brass edge. "What's that?" "That before all the fancy computers and calculators, we solved problems with simple tools and complex thinking." Mr. Chen smiled. Not the other way around. Andre's early graduation wasn't marked with caps and gowns, but with a small ceremony in the principal's office. His mother took photos on her phone as he accepted his diploma. 2 weeks before his classmates would walk across the stage at the official ceremony, the hardware store threw him a goodbye party during his final shift. Mr. Reynolds presented him with a professional tool set engraved with his name. "These aren't just for motorcycles," his boss said. "These are for whatever you need to fix along the way." The night before his departure, Andre couldn't sleep. He slipped out to the garage one last time, sitting among his tools and projects. The space had been his sanctuary for so long, the place where he felt most competent, most himself. Tomorrow he would ride the arch motorcycle to Pasadena, to a dorm room and classrooms filled with strangers. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. Tasha stood in the doorway, her hair wrapped in a colorful scarf, eyes puffy from crying earlier. "Can't sleep?" she asked, sitting beside him on the workbench. Andre shook his head. "Too much thinking." "About what?" "Everything." Andre gestured around the garage. "This is where I know what I'm doing. Out there." He trailed off. "You're scared," Tasha said. It wasn't a question, Andre nodded. At 12, his sister could be surprisingly perceptive. "Remember when I was learning to ride a bike?" she asked. "And I kept falling?" "You were terrible," Andre said with a small smile. "Worst balance I've ever seen." Tasha punched his arm lightly. "Yeah, well, remember what you told me? You said falling just means you're trying something hard. The only way to never fall is to never try anything new." Andre looked at his sister with surprise. "You remember that?" "I remember everything you tell me," she said. "Even when I pretend not to listen." She leaned her head against his shoulder. "You're going to fall sometimes at your fancy college, but you'll get back up just like you taught me." The morning of his departure dawned clear and bright. Andre loaded the last of his belongings into the saddlebags of the Arch motorcycle. Miguel arrived to see him off, bringing a cardboard tube. "A going-away present," he explained as Andre opened it to find a detailed map of California's best motorcycle routes. "For when you need to clear your head. The coastal highway is amazing." His mother fussed over last-minute details, extra snacks for the ride, a reminder about calling when he arrived, money tucked into his wallet, just in case. Her eyes were dry, but her voice trembled slightly. "I'm only 2 hours away," Andre reminded her. "I can come home on weekends sometimes." "You'll be busy," she said, straightening his collar. "Too busy for visits." "That's okay. That's how it should be." The goodbyes were both too long and too short. Andre hugged his mother, then Tasha, then Miguel. He promised to call, to text, to send pictures. And then there was nothing left but to go. The ride to Pasadena took just under 2 hours, but it felt like crossing into another world. The Arch motorcycle handled the highway beautifully, responding to Andre's touch like a living thing. As the city skyline came into view, Andre felt a strange mix of terror and exhilaration. Caltech's campus was both smaller and more intimidating than he'd imagined. The buildings were a mix of Spanish colonial architecture and modern glass structures. Students moved between them with purpose, carrying laptops and engaging in animated conversations. Andre parked his motorcycle in the designated area near his dorm, drawing curious glances from passing students. The Arch wasn't just expensive, it was distinctive, impossible to miss among the modest cars and bicycles. His dorm room was small but private, a benefit of the summer program. Andre unpacked methodically, arranging his few possessions with care. His roommate wouldn't arrive until the fall semester, giving him time to adjust to living alone. The summer preparation program began the next day. 20 students from non-traditional backgrounds, a polite term for kids from underfunded schools and lower-income families, gathered in a classroom for orientation. Andre looked around at faces that reflected a diversity of races and regions, all wearing the same expression of nervous determination. The program director, Dr. Powell, was a tall black woman with close-cropped gray hair and penetrating eyes. "I won't lie to you," she said after introductions. "The next 8 weeks will be challenging. You're here because you have potential. But potential without preparation is just unrealized possibility. We're going to prepare you." The schedule was grueling. Classes began at 8 a.m. and often lasted until 6 p.m., covering material that would be prerequisites for first-year courses. Evenings were filled with study groups and tutorials. Weekends included workshops on everything from academic writing to time management. Andre threw himself into the work, grateful for the distraction from homesickness. The mathematics was more advanced than anything he'd encountered before. The physics built on concepts Mr. Chen had only touched on. But in engineering classes, Andre found himself on more familiar ground. Theoretical principles connected to practical applications he'd discovered through years of working on. "Motorcycles, you have an unusual approach," his engineering instructor commented after Andre presented a solution to a design problem. "Most students with your background struggle with the theoretical aspects, but you're connecting theory to practice in ways that are quite sophisticated." 3 weeks into the program, Andre received an email from David, the Arch representative who had delivered his motorcycle. "Your internship starts next week. Tuesdays and Thursdays 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. transportation provided." Andre stared at the message in confusion. How was he supposed to manage an internship alongside the intensive summer program? He composed a polite response explaining his situation, but before he could send it, his phone rang. "Andre? It's David from Arch. Got a minute?" Andre explained his concerns about balancing the internship with his classes. "Already worked it out with Dr. Powell," David said. "This internship is part of your scholarship package. The program will adjust your schedule for those 2 days. You'll have makeup sessions on Saturdays." The following Tuesday, a car arrived to transport Andre to Arch Motorcycles headquarters. The facility was smaller than he'd expected, a sleek modern building with a workshop that gleamed with precision and purpose. David met him at the entrance. "Welcome to Arch," he said, leading Andre through security. "For the next 8 weeks, you'll rotate through different departments: design, fabrication, testing, customer service. Think of it as a crash course in motorcycle manufacturing. The employees greeted Andre with varying degrees of curiosity. Some were clearly skeptical of the teenage intern with the fancy scholarship. Others were welcoming, eager to share their knowledge. By lunchtime, Andre's head was spinning with new information. He sat alone in the break room, reviewing notes he'd taken during the morning orientation. "Mind if I join you?" Andre looked up to find Keanu Reeves standing beside his table holding a sandwich. For a moment, Andre couldn't speak, transported back to that evening in his family's garage. Of course, he finally managed. "Please." Keanu sat across from him. "How's the bike running?" "Perfectly," Andre said. It's amazing." "Thank you again," Keanu nodded. "And Caltech? David mentioned you started the summer program." "It's intense," Andre admitted. "But good. Challenging in the right ways." They talked through lunch, not as celebrity and fan, but as two people connected by a shared passion. Keanu asked thoughtful questions about Andre's classes, offering occasional insights from his own experiences. As lunch ended, Keanu stood to leave. "One more thing," he said. "The motorcycle, the scholarship, the internship, they're opportunities, not obligations. If at any point this isn't the right path for you, that's okay. The gifts don't come with strings." Andre considered this. "What if it is the right path?" "What then?" Keanu smiled. "Then you'll find ways to create similar opportunities for others someday." That's how light spreads. In the weeks that followed, Andre developed a rhythm. Classes and study groups at Caltech, internship at Arch, late-night video calls with his mother and Tasha, brief motorcycle rides on Sunday mornings to clear his head. It wasn't easy. There were moments of doubt, nights when equations blurred before exhausted eyes, days when he felt hopelessly out of place among classmates who spoke of private schools and family vacations abroad. But there were other moments too, solving a complex problem before anyone else in class, impressing a senior engineer at Arch with an innovative solution, receiving a text from Tasha with a photo of her first successful motorcycle repair under his remote guidance. Slowly, the unfamiliar became familiar. The impossible became possible, and Andre began to understand that he wasn't just a visitor in this new world. He belonged in it. 3 years passed like the blur of landscape seen from a motorcycle at full speed. Andre's life transformed in ways he could never have imagined that fateful evening when a broken-down Arch motorcycle brought Keanu Reeves to his family's garage. Now in his junior year at Caltech, Andre had found his rhythm. The initial shock of transition had given way to comfortable routine. His dorm room walls displayed a mix of engineering diagrams and photos from home. His desk held both advanced textbooks and the small wooden box containing Mr. Chen's slide rule. The Arch motorcycle, still gleaming but now bearing the marks of regular use, remained his primary transportation. Andre's phone buzzed with a text from his mother. "Call when you get a chance." Good news. Between classes, he found a quiet spot under a tree and called home. "Hey, Mom, what's up?" "Your sister got accepted to that engineering summer program," his mother said, her voice brimming with pride. "The one at UCLA you helped her apply for." Andre grinned. At 15, Tasha had developed her own passion for engineering, focused more on electrical systems than mechanical ones. The summer program was highly competitive, designed for promising high school students from underrepresented backgrounds. "That's amazing. Put her on." Tasha's voice came through, trying to sound casual but unable to hide her excitement. "It's not that big a deal. Only a 6-week program." "It's a huge deal," Andre insisted. "Those programs are super competitive. I'm proud of you." "Yeah, well," Tasha said, "I had a good reference letter from a Caltech student." "The letter didn't get you in. Your brain did." Their conversation was interrupted by Andre's calendar alert. "Sorry, I've got to run. Meeting with my project team. We'll celebrate when I come home this weekend, okay?" The project that consumed most of Andre's time these days was the centerpiece of his junior year, designing and building a hybrid electric motorcycle as part of a sustainable transportation initiative. His team included 4 other engineering students, each bringing different specialties to the work. The motorcycle they were creating wasn't just environmentally friendly, it was designed specifically for accessibility, with features that would make it easier for riders with physical limitations to operate. The idea had come from Andre's observations during his continuing internship at Arch, where he'd noticed the lack of options for riders with disabilities. As Andre hurried across campus, his phone buzzed again with another text, this one from David at Arch. "Keanu will be at the shop tomorrow. Says he'd like to see your project if you can bring it." Andre's heart raced. The prototype wasn't finished yet, but it was functional. The opportunity to show it to Keanu Reeves, whose support had made his education possible, was too important to miss. The next day, Andre and two teammates carefully transported their creation to Arch Motorcycles headquarters. The prototype looked rough compared to the polished perfection of Arch's production models, but Andre felt a surge of pride as they wheeled it into the workshop. Keanu was already there, discussing something with the design team. He looked much the same as he had 3 years ago, perhaps a few more lines around his eyes, his beard slightly grayer. He smiled when he saw Andre stepping away from the group to greet him. "Andre, good to see you." They shook hands. The awkwardness of their first meeting long replaced by a comfortable familiarity built through occasional interactions during Andre's internship. "Thank you for taking the time to see our project," Andre said, gesturing to his teammates. "This is Lily and Ben. We're working on this together, along with 2 others who couldn't make it today." After introductions, Andre explained the concept behind their motorcycle, a hybrid electric design with adaptive controls that could be customized for riders with different physical needs. As he spoke, his initial nervousness faded, replaced by the confidence of someone who thoroughly understood his subject. "The throttle can be repositioned for riders with limited hand mobility," Andre explained, demonstrating the feature. "And we've developed a stabilization system that activates at low speeds to prevent tipping." Keanu listened attentively, asking thoughtful questions about battery life and regenerative braking. He swung a leg over the motorcycle to feel the ergonomics, nodding appreciatively. "What inspired this?" he asked. Andre hesitated, then decided on honesty. "During my internship here, I met a customer who had to give up riding after losing function in his right arm. It seemed wrong that something as simple as control placement could keep someone from doing what they love." Keanu nodded, a look of understanding passing between them. Sometimes the most important innovations come from seeing problems others have accepted as unsolvable. As they prepared to leave, Keanu pulled Andre aside. "How would you feel about presenting this at the motorcycle show in Long Beach next month? Arch has a booth and we could display your prototype alongside our production models." Andre stared at him. "Are you serious?" "Completely. Your team has created something special here. It deserves to be seen." The motorcycle show was larger than Andre had imagined. Thousands of enthusiasts filling the convention center, moving between displays of gleaming machines and innovative gear. The Arch booth drew constant crowds, visitors drawn by the brand's reputation and Keanu's occasional presence. Andre's prototype, positioned prominently beside Arch's latest models, attracted its own share of attention. For 2 exhausting, exhilarating days, Andre and his teammates took turns explaining their design to curious attendees. Industry professionals asked detailed technical questions. Riders with disabilities shared their experiences and suggestions. On the second afternoon, a man in a wheelchair approached the display. He studied the adaptive controls with particular interest. "You built this?" he asked Andre. Andre nodded. "My team and I, yes." "I used to ride," the man said, running his hand along the frame. "Had an accident 5 years ago. Doctors said I'd never ride again. Would you like to try the simulator?" Andre offered, indicating the setup they'd brought for people to experience the controls without actually riding. For the next hour, Andre worked with the man, adjusting the simulator to accommodate his specific needs. By the end, the man was navigating virtual roads with growing confidence. "It's not the same as a real ride," Andre acknowledged, "but we're working on it. Maybe a year or 2 before we have a production-ready version." "When you do," the man said, handing Andre a business card, "call me. I want to be your first customer." The final day of the show, Andre found himself alone at the booth during a quiet moment. He was making notes on improvements based on feedback when a young boy approached, no more than 14, with wide eyes and a hesitant step. "Excuse me," the boy said. "Are you the one who built this motorcycle?" Andre smiled. "One of the team, yeah. I've been reading about it online. The adaptive controls are genius." The boy glanced around nervously, then lowered his voice. "I want to be an engineer too, but my school doesn't even have a decent science lab." Something in the boy's expression, eager but doubtful, reminded Andre of himself 3 years ago, standing in his family's garage, uncertain of his place in the world. "What's your name?" Andre asked. "Devin." "Well, Devin, let me tell you about this motorcycle. And while I'm at it, let me tell you about some programs you might be interested in." By the time Devin left, clutching Andre's email address and information about several engineering programs for high school students, his eyes shone with new possibility. Keanu, who had been watching from a distance, approached Andre. "Looks like an important conversation." Andre nodded. "He reminds me of myself. Interested in engineering but doesn't have many resources. And now, I gave him some information, pointed him toward opportunities." Keanu smiled. "That's how it works. One person reaches back to help the next." As the show ended and they packed up the prototype, Andre reflected on the distance he'd traveled, not just from South Los Angeles to Pasadena, but from who he'd been to who he was becoming. The garage where he'd first discovered his love for mechanics would always be part of him, but his world had expanded beyond what he'd ever imagined possible. The weekend after the motorcycle show, Andre rode his arch back to his family's neighborhood. The familiar streets welcomed him, unchanged yet somehow different. Or perhaps he was the one who had changed. He pulled into the driveway of his childhood home, where his mother and Tasha waited on the porch. The garage door was open, revealing the space that had once been his sanctuary. It looked smaller now, but no less important. Inside, a surprise waited. His mother and sister had transformed part of the garage into a workshop for Tasha, using some of Andre's old tools alongside new ones. A half-disassembled drone lay on the workbench, Tasha's latest project. "What do you think?" his mother asked. "She needs her own space now." Andre nodded, feeling a complicated mix of emotions: pride in his sister, nostalgia for his own time here, satisfaction at seeing the legacy continue. That evening, as they sat on the porch after dinner, Andre's phone buzzed with an email notification. It was from the man in the wheelchair they'd met at the motorcycle show, expressing interest in funding further development of their adaptive motorcycle. "What is it?" his mother asked, noting his expression. Andre looked up, taking in the familiar sight of his family's home, the neighborhood where he'd grown up, and the garage that had started it all. "I think," he said slowly, "it's the next chapter." As stars appeared in the darkening sky, Andre thought about the unlikely chain of events that had brought him here. A broken motorcycle, an act of kindness with no expectation of return, and the generosity that had changed everything. Sometimes the universe puts people in our path for a reason, and sometimes we become that person in someone else's path, creating possibilities they never imagined.